For the first time at the 2022 NOBULL CrossFit Games, we are inside the Coliseum here at the Alliant Energy Center for team competition. It is event 4, but it is the second event that the teams will take on here this week. Alongside Jeremy Austin with the 2009 Fittest Woman on Earth, Tanya Wagner. Jamie Hagia is down on the floor. My name is Joel Godet. This is an absolute gymnastics test for these teams. CrossFit Mayhem Freedom not in first place, not wearing the leader's jersey for the first time since it finished second at the 2017 CrossFit Games. Rich Froning chasing from behind for the first time in 1,800 days. The event description, gymnastics heavy. Guys, this is a shoulders burner.
Absolutely, Joel, and 5 rounds of 15 synchronized burpees over the worm. Between those rounds, the pairs will alternate between 3 or 2 pegboard ascents between the men and the women, and 15 parallel bar dips. The first time we've seen this movement, the first time anyone's seen this movement at the CrossFit Games. Getting to play on it before the individuals. 10-minute time cap coming up.
Recipe for success, Tanya, how do you tackle this thing?
There is a lot going on in this event, and anytime you have a worm and a new element where you're not sure what your other fellow teammates are going to do in there, you need the communication. Communication is key. Where, who, when, where are you going next? It is just at its best knowing what you're doing and playing that over in your head so that you know where you're going next.
Ingredients for success brought to us by Wild Protein Chips, which I had in the vendor's village earlier this afternoon. They are very good. Our lane assignments here in Heat 1 consist entirely of teams made up from Heat 1 in Event 1. AB CrossFit, international team, but based out of Florida, training Think Tank, of course, is a second-year team here at the Games, or I should say a repeat team here at the Games from a season ago. 80-20 out of Portadown, Ireland is in lane 4. In lane 5, though, it is the Greater Heights Ascend team that qualified out of the Granite Games. Kind of a super team. Jordan Cook has been to the Games before. Emily Tanner is the team's owner. She's actually the gym's owner. Brought to us by Guaranteed Rate, our spotlight team. Greater Heights Ascend is actually owned by Emily Tanner and 66-year-old Carlos Faez, who renovated his machine shop. Emily Tanner walked in, he said, this is an affiliate, but we have no members and no coaches yet. They got together, they built it up. Here they are just a couple of years later at the Games. Carlos is here at 66 years old for his first Games experience.
Stand by.
Under the lights at the Coliseum, this event starts with these burpees over the worm. It may seem easy now, but just wait until you're doing the final round after all this work.
There's just a lot of communication here needed with the athletes jumping. They can jump laterally, but you don't have that same awareness as when you're on the same side of the worm, and you can see how tight these athletes are to the lane. So it's really important that they walk and keep their worm close in the middle of their lane.
Tanya, absolutely, and the bottom of the movement, really imperative that they get that sequencing done, and all teams currently sitting at the bottom just for a split second. Make sure they collect themselves, make sure they're going through the range of movement required. No reps here is going to be crucial.
You do have to get the entirety of that chest down on the ground for these reps to count.
It's loud in here, so it is hard to hear for the athletes down on the floor to hear that up or time, but communication and hearing that go is going to be important as they're fatigued. And now we're already seeing AB CrossFit figuring out male athlete 1 and female athlete 1 need to go to their respective places, leaving the other 2 athletes to hold the worm. This event is so demanding. Even when you're not doing work, you're holding the worm doing work.
Tanya, and the first time we've seen the progression of gymnastics from the early days of CrossFit and mastering the basics. Holding the worm, there is penalties if the worm does touch the ground or does drop. The team will incur a 5 burpee penalty. The traverse required 8 reps at one end, 7 the other. And again, penalties, if you do need to break them up, no problems here whatsoever.
Yvonne Verdun for AB CrossFit. And the worm is advancing down in lane 2 for CrossFit Kilo 2. 80-20 just behind them, but it is Kilo 2, about 90 minutes away from Kilo 1, 2 affiliates.
And it's all about what each one of your athletes can do on the pegboard as well as the P-bars. Having an athlete that can fly through, if they're paired up with another athlete that struggles, will be what holds the teams up. But if you have everybody that can fly through, we'll be good.
Wild Protein Chips are the official protein chip of the NOBULL CrossFit Games. You can order online and find them nationwide. Whole Foods, Sprouts, and select Target locations. Also available regionally at Costco, Heb, Wegmans, Giant, select Albertsons, Safeway locations, and King Supers.
Tony, you mentioned it earlier in the recipes for success, and it's really imperative you get the right people in the right spots at the right time. If you've got your weaker athletes, you probably run them first to minimize the fatigue. The burpees over the worm are probably going to be the most crucial aspect here, with that tricep fatigue kicking in, and probably kicking in already.
So Kilo 2 going back to it here. Traversing the parallel bars is Deirdre Franzen.
I love that we're upping the ante here for the demand on dips. We've seen dips before at the CrossFit Games and ring dips, but having to have that buy-in of the traverse just makes it that much more demanding.
A lot of pulling strength, a lot of pressing strength required at either end of the Coliseum. Athletes having a fairly easy day today with a couple of the events.
Now this is important to notice as well, as you see Austin Nedeljkov come back to the worm. When each athlete is done with their respective movement, they can return to the worm, take some of the burden off of the 2 athletes that are holding. So if it takes longer on the P-bars or on the pegboards, there is some relief mixed in there. And now you can see as Deirdre Franzen returns, that worm will advance here for Kilo 2. Haphazardly or otherwise. Back to the burpees, 15 of them synchronized over the worm. It is Kilo 2 though, all out in front by themselves at the moment. We are nearing the halfway point of what is a 10-minute time-capped event. Greater Heights Ascend is who we highlighted off the top. Again, a super team, Emily Tanner, Jordan Cook, both on that Games team in 2019. Joined by Kelly Baker, who was on the Parallax team with Kelsey Keel back in 2016. They've been here before. And now you'll start to see the separation, right? You're going to see teams that will run into some struggles here gymnastically, and you will visually see on the floor as the worms advance and or lag behind.
The demand of the weight of that worm being 315 pounds, that top front section weighs 100. The section that the ladies have resting on their shoulders here, 70 pounds. So there's just a lot of weight. You just need to kind of stabilize your body, get in a good position.
Deirdre Franzen is in a tough spot right now, with the 100-pound section hanging out in front of her.
It feels like an eternity waiting for your teammates to get back.
And just look at the sweat dripping off of her nose and the nose of Ben Kettleson.
Difference of height in your team members playing an important role. The worms dripping as much as the sweat over the front and the back of these athletes. Some choosing to dangle it off their back and their front, some to choosing to let it dip in the middle. I tell you what, it's not a very easy task holding this worm with 2 people.
Which one do you do? Do you hold it in the middle like Kilo 2 has gone for here, or do you try to hold up those 100-pound sections and let it set?
I prefer a lot of weight on my shoulders, so I'd be doing exactly that rather than having the weight on my legs with the dip in the middle.
Ali Zerke here for Kilo 2, getting ready to hop back up on the P-bars. That's the girlfriend of Colton Mertens, who has also qualified on the individual side of the men's competition.
It's really important that you wait like she did, because you need to traverse, and that's so demanding, but you need these to be unbroken. And because she had to break that up, I stand corrected. That looks like that was her last rep that she wasn't able to complete of her first set of 8. She walked back, completed that one set, or that one rep, and now she will traverse back for her final 7.
7 minutes in, 3 minutes left to go, 10-minute time cap here. There are teams, a lot of them, that are not going to be able to finish. That is okay. This is the test right now. Adrienne Bosman wanted to test gymnastics in a strong way with these teams, whether they finish or not.
There's no place to hide.
AB CrossFit going to work. Jeremy, look at the way that Justice is trying to hang on here.
We got shoelaces in this at the bottom, anything, and the judge making sure that not one thread of that worm is touching the competition floor, and what a struggle.
And Seth Snowball's doing yeoman's work. That's actually not a bad strategy to use your foot as a prop.
Absolutely not. Wasn't mentioned anywhere before that you couldn't do it. So, hey, let's roll with it.
Mayhem Justice, they came in last in the opening event today, so trying to do some work here. You know, it's early to mention cuts, but certainly you don't want to apply pressure on yourself unduly. So Justice trying to pop back up the leaderboard. Second place right now behind AB. And again, you'll see that Latin American flag next to AB CrossFit. That team is based out of Florida, though. Just a heavy Latin American presence. And one of the cool things with these teams, their jerseys don't say the state or the location or country of their affiliate. It is their affiliation individually. AB's self-made jerseys say Unity on them. AB onto their final P-bar dips. Then they'll have one more round of 15 synchronized burpees. Only problem is there's only a minute left to go. So they are fighting the time cap here as well.
And they're fighting those P-bar dips. He needs to hold on, get that shoulder below the elbow. That's Mario Santanella.
Lyra Sanchez is on the left side of your screen, finishing. So both of the AB athletes have returned to the worm. 15 more synchronized burpees. Now you're not gonna be able to do that in 30 seconds, but get what you can get here. You can't get more time, you can do more work. 20 seconds left to go before the cap, and AB CrossFit trying to establish the baseline marker. And this is where you have to be careful. Look at the synchronicity here. No time to waste, they are flying. This is poetry in motion. Can they get another rep with 2 seconds? They can.
And that is time. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause.
AB CrossFit just put on a burpee over the worm clinic in the final 30 seconds of Heat 1.
He's got 3 more heats of athletes coming up, folks.
Three more heats still to come here in event number 4 for the teams, although the second event that they have actually tackled today. And Mayhem Justice with a fine showing and performance as well. Many thanks to the shoelaces of Seth Stovall.
Great start to competition inside the Coliseum, and the struggle was real. And I don't think these teams expected this event to be as difficult as it was. A lot of fatigue, especially getting to the pegboard and the P-bars or parallel bar dips. Sweat dripping off. AB so good.
Cap +4 is the time to beat. So 11 burpees over the worm on the final round is the number we're looking to beat as we move into heat number 2. Take a timeout, reset the teams for you, and get set for heat number 2 here inside the Coliseum, the Alliant Energy Center, and the 2022 NOBULL CrossFit Games. +4 is the time to beat as we get set Heat 2 of Event 4 for the teams here at the 2022 NOBULL CrossFit Games. Inside the Coliseum, underneath the lights at the Alliant Energy Center in Madison, Wisconsin. My name is Joel Gadet. Jeremy Austin, Tanya Wagner is the champion of these games on the women's side back in 2009. Jamie Hagia has competed at these games as well. She is our reporter down on the floor. Standings through one event, CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue, second last year at the games. They're in first after one event. CrossFit Mayhem Freedom, Rich Froning trying to pick up his 10th championship, be it team or individual. They are in second place, 3 points back. The event description, guys, this is a gymnastics burner.
True story, that, Joel. Event number 4, we have jumped from 1 to 4, but 5 rounds of 15 synchronized burpees over the worm. In between that, pairs will split. One will go down to the pegboard and do some ascents, either 3 for men or 2 for women. And 15 parallel or P-bar dips, reversing in between, 8 at one end, 7 at the other, and penalties if you do not get those complete, and also if you do drop the worm.
Did not have a worm drop penalty in the first heat. Ingredients for success brought to us by Wyatt.
So there's a 10-minute time cap. No team in the first heat was able to complete this event, and in order for this team to, or anyone here to do it, they have to have the communication and the teamwork to know where to be, when, and to move quickly.
Lana Simons, CrossFit Milford, finished second as a team back in 2015. They will be in lane 1. That is at the top of your screen when we begin. CrossFit West Chase in lane 3 is a repeat performer from these games a year ago. As is Rhapsody in lane 7, standing right next to Move Fast, Lift Heavy in lane 8. This team that Christian Harris put together literally through a combine. He and Will Carter had 35 people come up to the affiliate, and they had tryouts. Nicole Soto and Winter Rodriguez finding their way to the CrossFit Games.
We expect them to do well and work together well and move themselves up the leaderboard after this event.
10-minute time cap here. As Tanya said, no one finished in Heat 1.
Probably the athletes in Heat 2 have sat there and had a look at the pacing on the burpees, and I think they've found that they need to go a little bit quicker. KT doing very well in heat number 1, in the last round to get as many as they did, but I think they needed to move a little bit quicker.
And it's funny because we saw people pace the burpees, and part of it is you need the synchronicity. You need to make sure you move as a unit, but then under duress. You saw in 30 seconds AB CrossFit knock out 11 of them, so maybe push yourself further than you think you can.
Already a first little hiccup there for West Chase Red. All 4 athletes must come up and pick up that worm before the 2 athletes can go on. This is one of those events you need to play in your head prior to getting out there, knowing where you need to be, what place you're gonna grab the worm, how you're gonna move and hold that. On the team side, the pegboard, they are allowed to use their feet here. Ladies are doing 2 ascents of the pegboard. The men do 3.
Different than what we saw on the individual side, where they were strict earlier this afternoon. We're not able to use your feet, just had to pull up with your shoulders.
Interesting strategy from all teams on the floor, all sending their males first to get the dips done. All the females doing the pegboard first.
Why's that?
They have to do that, though. One male athlete will go first to it. It is the order that was set up ahead of time, but you will choose, like you mentioned in the previous heat, Jeremy, maybe sending your athlete that is not as proficient first, so that that fatigue of the worm and all the burpees doesn't play a factor when coming back to it if they have to do it later in the event.
This is Move Fast, Lift Heavy that has moved out first. Bottom of screen, they are officially in lane 8. 15 synchronized burpees. Christian Harris is this team's captain. He's in front with the black headband. Will Carter is behind him. Winter Rodriguez, who hates winter, is from Miami originally. Ironic, she is the athlete in the back. Nicole Soto in the front. They've been joined just next to them by Nordic, repeat team from last year's games. Nordic original bunch out of Stockholm, Sweden, qualified out of strength and depth. Hand is in the air, middle of the field for purple, Oslo purple red. Just off screen right, it looks like we hit our first struggles with 2150 stuck at the pegboard at the moment.
And the struggle at the front, trying to maintain position and a comfortable position at that. And that's the first time I've seen that position from Purple Red with that back rack position with both hands stopping it from falling backwards.
Well, and that's why this event is so punishing. If you have a struggling athlete or somebody on your team that is holding up the works, it makes it that much more demanding for your athletes to stand there. They're working hard to keep that worm off the floor. I like that element in this event.
And Purple Red's run into a little bit of a wall here with Marion Johnson. So she's taking her time. It is precious time, but you cannot fail pegboard ascents. It just barrels down on you. They get harder and harder if you keep failing and failing, so rest as needed. Ragnhild Same just trying to hang on to that 100-pound section in front.
They're allowed to shift, they are allowed to move, they just can't change positions.
Nicole Soto returning to the worm, so move fast, lift heavy will now advance and go back on to 15 synchronized burpees. Team that maybe is in a heat that they don't want to be in. They're, I think, eyeing, let's jump to the back end of competition heading into day 2 if they can get themselves into heat 3 or 4 tomorrow.
Chris Harris looking very comfortable at the front of the worm and moving that down. He didn't seem to be struggling too much. The others a little bit more fatigue, but their pace seems to have picked up a little bit from the start of the event. As you mentioned, only 10 minutes, and not a whole lot of time to get all this work done.
We're almost at the halfway point. Just have to imagine it's a relief. Will Carter and Chris Harris were on that team that was disqualified last year after a positive test following semifinals, so they have waited a year to get back to the CrossFit Games after finding 2 new teammates. You're like an unleashed dog at that point. You've just been waiting for this opportunity. And now Winter Rodriguez will head down to the P-bars. Christian Harris will move to the pegboard ascents, 3 of those for him.
And they're choosing the strategy of staying together in the middle of the worm and letting it drape over them.
Are they leaning on each other?
They are, they're touching, making that be a little bit more of a support.
I'm surprised after watching Seth Stovall rest the worm on his foot for Mayhem Justice in Heat 1. If anybody else saw it, if the message is going to get relayed, if other people are going to try it.
Use your entire length of your body and rest it on your foot and then lean against someone else. It's easy. Here I am standing up here.
Winter Rodriguez was a great individual competitor before joining the team, 11th last year at the Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Championship, so just outside last chance online qualifier position. Good pieces added to the puzzle for Christian Harris, and now she can help take some of the load off of Will Harris here. Excuse me, off of Will Carter. Christian Harris in the background, finishing up with his pegboard ascents. Move fast, lift heavy, making great time. Everybody set to advance that worm now. It'll be 15 more synchronized burpees over the worm. Adrian Bosman programmed the CrossFit Games this year, did tell us in testing, the athletes when they got to this point said they were the hardest burpees of their lives after all of the strain put on your shoulders.
And strenuous as well, I think. But tricep fatigue, massive, especially when you're doing positioning on the P-bars with those dips, and you're pretty much doing exactly the same movement, but you're moving your entire body weight off the floor and having to lift it up. Christian Harris looking like he's having no trouble with either.
Guaranteed great team to watch coming into this heat. Was move fast, lift heavy. They have not let us down. Christian Harris, a former football player at Long Island Post. Got some good shoulders on that frame. And now it will be Harris holding. And this is an interesting position. We'll see some people attempt too. Harris is going to use his legs bend himself forward and just drape that worm on his back.
Stance is a lot wider than we have seen for a number of athletes. Great position to be in.
It's almost like, to use a football metaphor, it's almost like he's an offensive tackle, right? He's gotten in that good 2-point stance. He's resting. Worm just sits on his shoulders.
Well, it is one of the most strongest positions you can get into, so why not utilize it?
Will Carter with the traverses. Nicole Soto with the 2 pegboard ascents.
We're seeing a lot of proficiency in those pegboard ascents. Last year, Joel, we saw some athletes on the team side still struggling. So the athletes on the team side making their gains here on the pegboards, and we're seeing no trouble at all on the P-bars as well with the new element. So gymnastics abilities are improving across the board here on the team side.
90 seconds left. Soto wants some noise. Move fast, lift heavy's feeling it. AB got to this final set of 15 synchronized burpees over the worm with 30 seconds to go. So about a 40-second lead. Although a little bit of a bungle there, getting set. It's about 10 wasted seconds for move fast, lift heavy. They have 1 minute remaining to work through these 15 synchronized burpees over the worm. Time to beat is cap plus 4. So 11 burpees here.
Great tempo, even under fatigue, keeping them together.
On their scoreboard, hand in the air from the judge. Move fast, lift heavy, keep your eyes.
The vibe and the communication here from Move Fast, Lift Heavy is incredible. You can't even tell who's calling. They are just going as one cohesive unit, and they'll come across and finish unofficially in 9:36. Move Fast, Lift Heavy with the time to beat here in Heat 2.
Joel, you did mention them trying to jump up heats, and no doubt with that time, we are going to see them in a higher heat coming into tomorrow.
Yeah, they're going to beat people. They're going to beat a lot of people. Teams are not going to finish. And almost everybody does not finish. It is solely Move Fast, Lift Heavy that finishes Event 4, Heat 2.
And only one other team who got to their final burpees as well, so that is huge for them.
Fittest teacher in the world, Will Carter, Christian Harris, Winter Rodriguez, Nicole Soto.
Move fast, lift heavy. They hit the P-bars hard. They work together the entire time. Some different strategies that they use on the worm, led by Christian Harris here. A lot of communication the whole time. Strength across the board, showing their proficiency in these gymnastic movements and literally leaning on each other when they needed to on the worm. Looking for some love, looking for a little support from the crowd here to give them that final push. The first team that we're seeing to finish this event that will move them up the leaderboard after their 25th place finish in the first event of their CrossFit Games here in Madison.
What is CrossFit? Large loads, long distances, quickly. Move fast, lift heavy. They win Heat 2. It all comes back to the same core methodology. 9:36.97 is the time to beat. Tyrannus actually is in second place now too, cap plus 2. And that drops cap plus 4 AB CrossFit into third. These are the overall standings as we get set for Heat 3. Again, Oslo Navy Blue upending Mayhem Freedom in the opening event is the story. It was Mayhem that won initially the first 6 events at last year's games. Later, a scoring adjustment turned it into the first 5. But it is Oslo Navy Blue that will wear a leader's jersey when we eventually get to Heat 4 here inside the Coliseum.
Event
Event
number
description
4.
brought to us by Wild.
Jumping a couple of events which we will see tomorrow, but 5 rounds of 15 synchronized burpees over the worm. In between that, we're going to send our pairs either end of the Coliseum. 3 or 2 pegboard ascents, 3 for the men, 2 for the women, and 15 parallel or P-bar dips, traversing along and making sure they get 8 reps done on one end, traversing back, getting 7 reps on the other before they come to the middle and progress that worm down the competition floor.
And that is a lot of burpees that these athletes have. So there has to be a lot of communication when it comes to the burpees, when it comes to where they need to be, which athlete is going to break off and go over to the pegboard, go over to the parallel bars. So The name of the game for this, and that recipe for success, the ingredient for success is going to be communication.
Teams competing here in Heat 3. Square in the middle of the floor in lane 5, Kolesnikov team, KT CrossFit. Qualified last year, unable to make it to the games because of travel issues, so good for them to be able to compete here. OBA out of Philadelphia is in lane 7. 8th Day CrossFit did win a heat in event 1 today in lane 1, but in lane 9, KAMO, Kansas, Missouri, they're right on the line, our guaranteed rate team to watch. Camo Athletics, they were told in semifinals that they resembled a bunch of sneaky fit little gremlins. They're one of the smallest teams out there, but because of that, maybe this is an event that they can hit a home run on.
They were at the MAC, and they were fun to watch. They were aggressive. When they have confidence, you're going to see them just take off. So I expect a lot of energy from them, and I expect them to do really well in this event. And
it was 8th Day that we alluded to that won Heat 1 of event number 1. So you've got some momentum and some confidence riding high.
10 seconds.
The Paz couple in the back, Schaefer right, Jones left.
Stand by.
It's going to start on the worm, 15 synchronized burpees over the worm.
A variety of tests that these teams are going to see throughout the week. The first event today was a very long event, a little different pacing, but this one has to be fast right from the get-go if you want to finish, and they need to move quickly together, synchronized, and that's what they're doing.
Tanya, you mentioned the length or duration of event number 1 and getting that heart rate under control for pretty much the entire time frame. This is going to jack it up really quick, and maybe trying to control that throughout the sub 10 minutes that they've got in front of them is probably a little bit more difficult, especially as they have to work pretty hard with that worm in the middle while they're pretty much doing nothing, if that makes sense.
Well, EXF already made a mistake here. Moses Botello left to go down to traverse the parallel bars before the worm was elevated in the air. The owner of CrossFit EXF in Queensland, Australia.
I must say that I live about 20 minutes north of where I am in Australia. And Bryony and Christy in particular, very good gymnastically. You mentioned Moses. Moses gymnastically is exceptional. My only concern is the size of Henry Carlisle. Henry's about 6'4". He's a very big human. We'll have to wait and see how that happens. But Moses on his way back on the traverse already on his second set of dips.
Former middle blocker holding up that worm in the back there at 6'4".
Christy Bishop, right of screen. A lot of regional individual experience. And gymnastically very good.
Still waiting for Bishop to come back down and return to the team here. Pick up the worm, they will advance it. So it is EXF in front.
Formerly Bishop, now Christy Hollard, getting married recently as well. But their first time at the games and getting their team together.
You would know this more than anybody, Jeremy. Christy Bishop lives in Brisbane. She actually travels quite a distance to be able to compete with the EXF here. Lives on the same street as Royce Dunn, though. There's a street in Brisbane where all the fit people live.
Well, she lives about 4 hours north of Brisbane, but she's left her family at home and moved to Brisbane to compete with EXF. So big move for her. Great to see her on the games floor for the first time.
Now here's Camo on the right side that has joined EXF. We talked about them sneaky fit little gremlins. Look at them go to work.
Trying to make up some time. They weren't the first to move it, but they are moving really fast, staying low to the burpee as they jump over. They don't stand a full extension. That's really smart.
Worm up in the air for 8th day, left of screen. Zoe Jones will head over to the parallel bars.
As your leaders back to the parallel bar, that means also
EXF still leading from the front.
lane number 1 and lane number 8 respectively.
And watch the different traverses. You can see just baby steps trying to move your way down the parallel bars from one end to the other.
If you're not as comfortable, you're going to minimize the movement. You're going to try to stay as tight as possible. Your more comfortable athletes are going to take bigger steps, use more of their hips there.
Down in lane number 8.
I'm still waiting for somebody. Gymnastics folks will get me on this. Someone's going to do a bobsar. Just swing from one side to the other.
They need their hands to come in front of those red marks before they can start their dips.
And how about the timing? Jones and Paz ending together.
Beautiful. Great pairing. Some of that little error there on communication where they need to be, but that was a great strategy to put those two athletes together. The right pair can make up a lot of time on other teams.
You mentioned it in the ingredients to success. Getting the right people in the right spot, really important. And those guys, milliseconds in it.
Closing in on the halfway mark here. 10-minute time capped event. The time to beat is 9 minutes and 36 seconds. That's move fast, lift heavy from heat number 2. It appears as if Zoe Jones is the caller there for 8th day. Once her chest hits, basically gives the go for the rest of the team to move. There's EXF in the black. Moses Patella giving Justin Medeiros a run for best mullet at the games this year. Wild Protein Chips is the official protein chip of the NOBULL CrossFit Games. They're online, or you can find them nationwide. Whole Foods, Sprouts, select Target locations. Also available regionally at Costco, Heb, Wegmans, Giant, select Albertsons and Safeway locations, and at King Soopers. It is Wild Protein Chips. Michael Paz just contemplating life there. Ryan Schaefer working his way through the pegboard. If you remember when the pegboard first made an appearance at the CrossFit Games in 2015, basically no one could do it. But Tanya, it's such an interesting benchmark of fitness now as the game has progressed. And it's something that if you're going to compete at this level, you need to test yourself with.
Greg Glassman spoke about it way back in 2002 about gymnastics abilities and being able to perform them at all different rudimentary to advanced levels. And people don't always listen to that until they see it come out at the games, until they see the demand. And so we've seen the progression of abilities in gymnastics because the pegboard was introduced back in 2015. And every time we see a new apparatus, we see new things, it takes a few years for the athletes to catch up or catch on. And now I think seeing these elements like the bike earlier with the teams, and we're seeing more of the components that we saw on the individual side of competition sneak and bleed over into the team side. I think we're gonna have a lot more teams paying attention to all of the past movements, and as well as they should.
Michael Paz yelling down to his wife Heather, who is finishing with her final dip. 8th day will advance the worm again, leading the pack. Not that everybody at their affiliated home is going to be doing pegboards all the time, but is there an applicable, this is what you should be doing in your affiliate to mimic this?
The standard was set very early on the progression, as Tanya mentioned, and that standard has just increased, and the skill level of athlete has increased with their adaptability. So I don't think anything's off the table, and I don't think Michael was yelling at his wife. I think he was talking to her very nicely.
I love you too, honey.
Just dip faster. This worm is very heavy. You can see 8th day working through the 15 synchronized burpees EXF, joining the bottom of the screen.
How's 8th day looking, Larry?
And a no rep for EXF. You have to make sure every chest is on the ground before any one person moves.
That's the awareness and the communication we talked about. For the athletes that were standing there holding the worm, their chest isn't as blown up as the athletes that were just doing the P-bar dips. So it's important, even though you want to go faster and get yourself moving, no reps are super costly.
That's a Jones now to the pegboard. Paz back over to the P-bars. And as we were told during event 1, yes, the Pazes are married, but they never pair up. It's always Heather and Schaefer. And then Michael always teams up with Zoe Jones when they break off into pairs. They just suit each other well that way.
Maybe it's better for their marriage that way.
Look at the dip cycle rate, though, for Michael Paz.
He's having a fair break at the end of the 8 reps. Now he's got to traverse and get back and do 7, but he is actually probably timing himself of Zoe down the far end.
So that's the game though, right? He knows how much time he has based on how well Zoe Jones is doing. But if he gets back to the worm sooner, he can help take some of the weight off of his two teammates there.
But if he goes too fast and fails a rep or needs to break, that's costly. So you don't need to push yourself there. The worm hold isn't as crucial as him making sure he gets those last 7 reps unbroken.
And there's the sport, right? So Paz is back. Here comes Jones. They timed it up beautifully. And on to their final 15 worm burpees. Time to beat 9:36. You've got 50 seconds to go to get in ahead of Move Fast, Lift Heavy. And at this pace, they should do that. Can't afford no reps. Don't want to slow down.
9 minutes on the clock.
They're going for a rep about every 3 seconds.
If you listen carefully, you can hear the go.
When the judge's hand goes in the air, we know 5 reps remaining. That is indeed the case here. 8th Day CrossFit finishes. 8th Day CrossFit with its 2nd heat win of the CrossFit Games. They put themselves in the driver's seat. 9:28 is the time to beat.
You can't ask for much more than your heat best. 2 consecutive years this team has been the exact same team, competing the 2nd time here at the Games, but there's a lot of competition history at the semifinal and regional level for that team.
5 seconds left here. Nobody else is going to finish, but again, get what you can get because only 2 teams have finished. Time cap here in Heat 3. It is 8th Day CrossFit. They're not messing around. And honestly, that's where experience comes into play. They've been here before. They know what they're up against.
Their timing was nearly perfect the entire way through. We saw early on, it was EXT and Camo that had their little race there at the burpees, but it was really once Zoe Jones made her move on the P-bars that they took the lead, and that was the point and the turning point where once they took this lead, they didn't look back. A lot of great communication, a lot of great awareness that we saw from this team. Seeing where their other athlete was, when they needed to rest, when they needed to move, great communication, great cohesive work. Fantastic finish for 8th Day CrossFit.
9:28, time to beat 9:36 from Move Fast Lift Heavy is now in 2nd place. Then you've got the 9+4 for AB and the 9+2 for Tyrannus that filter into this from prior heats. So it'll be Camo in, I believe, 5th. Camo and DXF, 2 teams we highlighted off the top, in a tie for 5th once you mix all of the heat leaderboards together. Heat number 4 inside the Coliseum, event number 4 for the teams. This is the 2022 NOBULL CrossFit Games at the Alliant Energy Center. Here in Madison, Wisconsin, it is CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue that has thrown the first punch. The distinct question coming in wasn't just could anybody beat Mayhem Freedom this year, it was could CrossFit Reykjavik. And CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue sat there and said, you know what? I took that personally. They throw the opening punch and have mixed things up a little bit. We'll talk about that more in a second, but first, what are we doing here inside the Coliseum?
Absolutely, it's an electric atmosphere in here for team event number 4. 2 and 3 we'll get to tomorrow. But 5 rounds of 15 synchronized burpees over the worm as they progress down the floor. Between those rounds, however, pairs will be performing 3 or 2 pegboard ascents, 3 for the men, 2 for the women, and 15 parallel bar dips with a traverse in the middle, 8 at one end, 7 at the other, and a 10-minute time cap ahead of these athletes.
And the ingredient for success in event 4 is all about teamwork. This is communication at its best. Know where you're going, know what you need to do, know what you're doing as a team, talk about it, and make your move.
Let's check in down on the floor with Jamie Hagia.
Thanks, Joel. This is the first time the P-bars are making their debut at the CrossFit Games. You'll notice the teams are the first ones to use this new apparatus, and you'll notice that it has a little bit of a bend in the middle, so these athletes will have to stay tight in their core and their arms as they traverse across these bars.
Jamie, thank you. As we take a look at the start list here, one team to take a look at is in lane 7. 4th place overall coming in, that's CrossFit Portee. They've actually used parallel bars in competition before, back at the Winter War in 2018 in their home country. So 3 of their 4 athletes have used this apparatus, maybe an interesting advantage for them specifically, just coming from Finland. But the teams to keep an eye on, not wearing the white leaders jersey for the first time since 2017. CrossFit Mayhem Freedom after a 2nd place finish in the opening event. Rich Froning, Andrea Nisler, Taylor Williamson, and Sam Cournoyer, they are now chasing CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue.
And now we're gonna see the pressure for Oslo Blue. How do they hold up? You spoke about it, Joel. The pressure was on Reykjavik and Freedom. That was the battle. Oslo said, hey, don't leave us out. Well, here they are. They are in the first place position. First place means first place to them. And what are you doing now that you're in that position? Here's your chance to show us.
Don't taunt the tiger. Have you poked the bear? What is Mayhem Freedom going to be doing in this event? They will not like what just happened, and they're going to come back with a vengeance, and I can't wait to see what happens in the next 9.5 minutes.
I got news for you. The hand was in the air for Oslo before it was for Mayhem Freedom. So defending the white tops and red bottoms here, Oslo picks up the worm. They are trailing, though, CrossFit Portee, who we pointed out at the very beginning as well. And a little bit of a hiccup for Oslo. They weren't sure who was going where. That's going to cost them maybe a precious second or 2.
There was a hiccup for them, but then also Freedom off screen missed a burpee. Rich had to get back down to do their final burpee. So it is loud in here, and with the judge's hand in the air, they're watching to make sure they have all 15 burpee reps.
David Dahl-Reingard is on those dips right now. Rich Froning is in the foreground for Mayhem Freedom. Ingrid Hodenbier is on the pegboard ascents and is taking her time.
Rich Froning smashed those dips, barely rested, dropped off the P-bars, jumped right back up, traversed.
And you can see Dahl-Reingard now returning for Oslo, but Mayhem Freedom has edged in front, so that missed burpee early doesn't hinder them at all. And Mayhem Freedom is the 2nd team to hit the 2nd round of synchronized burpees. They are right behind Portee.
Down to the ground to get their burpees. They're making their 13th consecutive CrossFit Games appearance. Obviously, with some different players on
side by side, 1st and 2nd place overall through one event.
And don't leave out to the far left of your screen, we have Mayhem Independence. That's typically who Mayhem Freedom is working out next to. They know the speed, they work out next to each other. Independence came in just seconds behind Freedom in the first event earlier today, and they're looking to make a push as well. And they sit there nipping at the heels of Freedom, and that's only going to push Freedom even farther.
One of 4 affiliates all time that has sent multiple teams to the games. Mayhem has 3 for the first time ever here in 2022. Andrea Nisler down to the P-bar. Samuel Cournoyer is now on the pegboard ascent. It's Mayhem and Portee going head-to-head here, and then you can see Leanna Richter coming behind. Reykjavik is also making a move. Con Porter and Annie Thorisdottir bearing the brunt of the worm.
And it was actually Lauren Fisher who got to the P-bars first, and she is ahead of Andrea Nisler. But Nisler just finished her bars.
Keep going. Kip, that's what Con Porter
Con
is
is
saying.
trying to help her. Now, we were wondering earlier about Lauren Fisher's shoulder. She was staying really tight, and she's just working her way slowly and cautiously. This is a ton of demand on the shoulders, and we wondered how her shoulder was going to hold up with this.
So she's got to make it beyond those red tape markers, and you can see the fight right now in Lauren Fisher. This is going to be the tough event for Lauren Fisher, and she's got to go back and retraverse the bars again.
And if you saw the blonde ponytail just behind her, that was Nisler finishing up and heading back to the worm. Mayhem is now in the lead again.
It's Mayhem and Selwyn, the New Zealand team.
Gymnastically very good, the two girls, Maddie Schelling and Marnie Sykes, awesome.
The other thing to notice on the floor are the markings you'll see as these teams are doing burpees, so you cannot lose track of who goes where on each round. So who is standing in which spot either has a stop sign or an arrow to point in the appropriate direction. Nice little help by the event team as you advance. Wild Protein Chips is the official protein chip of the NOBULL CrossFit Games, online or nationwide. Whole Foods, Sprouts, select Target locations, also available regionally at Costco, Heb, Wegmans, Giant, and select Albertson/Safeway and King Soopers. We are halfway through this 10-minute time cap, and Taylor Williamson is taking her sweet time to get down there and chalk up her hands. This is a menacing approach. If I'm the P-Bars, I'm afraid that Taylor Williamson's about to get on top there. She is in control, and so is Rich Froning on the pegboard.
It doesn't seem like a struggle at all for either. Now, to man on that shoulder girdle positioning on those dips, imperative. Rich Froning up and down that pegboard like Spider-Man. And there is no resting for Rich Froning. Straight back to work below that red line. And I spoke about poking the bear. They are back with a vengeance.
Taylor Williamson is just marching across on these P-bar traverses into the back half of her 15 dips. By the way, while Taylor Williamson is crushing the dips, Lauren Fisher is still struggling for Reykjavik, and you can see Con Porter, they have dropped the worm. So there will be a 5 burpee penalty when Annie Thorisdottir and Lauren Fisher both return. And Annie Thorisdottir has gone down to coach up Lauren Fisher, and she drops again.
The penalty really crucial because she has to traverse every time she breaks a set. So if it's not done in 8 reps and 7 reps at either end, you've got to go back and traverse again and get the reps done.
So Fisher will chalk up and get ready going back to the beginning of the P-bar. She will have to traverse and march back, which I think right now is the hardest thing for her. It's when she finishes the traverse that it's becoming the issue to then start the dips. In the meantime, Mayhem Freedom is still your leader. Mayhem Independence has come up on their heels. Their captain's Angelo DeChico. I said before the games, Angelo, what's your goal? He said, we want to finish second, which no one says, but oh, captain, my captain. They're here to get Rich Froning his 10th championship and then put 2, maybe 3 teams from their affiliate on the podium. 3 minutes left to go. Only 2 teams have finished at all in this event. 9:28's the time to beat. Sam Cournoyer is doing this like he's been a gymnast his whole life.
He could do this in his sleep. He looks so smooth.
It's almost overextending at the top. The strength of that push at the top.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
We don't penalize for overextend. Like show it. Show your control. Time to beat 9:28. You can see Andrea Nisler off in the distance working on the pegboard. Cournoyer is going to finish first, so he'll get back to Rich Froning and Taylor Williamson to provide some relief holding that worm.
This has been exceptional from Mayhem Freedom. Rich happy to just sit there and hug his worm while he waits.
Now here's the trick. None of them are looking back in the direction of Nisler. And there, Cournoyer just took a peek. Nisler's coming down on the back end of her 2nd ascent here. So this will be it, just 15 burpees over the worm remaining. for Mayhem Freedom. Well, Oslo poked the bear in event 1, and the bear has responded. Mayhem Freedom out in front here in event number 2.
But I'm watching the clock because 9:28 from the previous heat, 8th day CrossFit. It's going to be close.
They're going at about a 3-second pace. Same as 8th day when they went 9:28. 9:36 is second place. Move fast, lift heavy. The only 2 teams to finish so far. 9:28, the time to beat. You can see the judges count on the hand left of screen. Hand is in the air. 5 more reps remaining. Oh, it's going to be close. 9:28 is the time to beat. Mayhem Freedom. 4 seconds. Mayhem Freedom across. You gotta go. Mayhem Freedom. I don't think they got there. They did it.
Oh my word!
8th day with an event win. Mayhem Freedom's in second. Whoa. The entire west side of Michigan just exploded. Now Mayhem Independence with 10 seconds trying to finish. They came in 3rd place overall. Oslo going to work. 2 seconds left. No one else finishes. 3 teams finish event 4.
Boz called it early. He said they're not going to finish it.
But I don't think Freedom knows that they didn't get the win.
Now, if you combine that, that's a 2nd place finish with a 2nd place finish. Oslo's, without looking unofficially, probably ballpark 3rd or 4th. Mayhem may go into tomorrow with the overall lead.
They're fine, but when it becomes hundreds of seconds for a win for 100 points, it was a show here on the P-Bars for Mayhem Freedom. Rich, Sam, they just blistered through it. On the other side of things, Lauren Fisher struggled. She had a hard time getting through those. Her team was supporting the best way they could, but it looks like that will be, I hope she didn't do more damage to her shoulder. We hope to see that she continues, but man, Freedom, if I could read Rich's mind, it would be like, settle down, folks, settle down. We're not wearing the white shirt, but it doesn't mean much. We have a lot to do, a lot to accomplish here. They just powered through that event. I wish I could have seen them next to 8th day. I wish that could have been a race. Independence was squeaking there behind. They put on the pressure later on in that event as well.
3 teams finish. You said Boz called it, and he's okay with this. He wanted to test high-skill gymnastics in a different way from these teams. Today, they were testing.
It was an easy one. If you got the 100 words of fitness, it's master the basics of gymnastics, and dips is one of those. Greg Glassman, back at the original CrossFit gym, had some parallel bars in his gym. So if you haven't been listening over the last 20 odd years, start listening.
Jamie Hagia is down with the 2nd place finisher of event 4, Mayhem Freedom.
Rich, this is your 12th CrossFit Games. You have seen a lot of events, a lot of workouts, but the first time you've seen the P-bars, how did you feel playing on them, using them in the workout?
A long time ago at Reebok headquarters, they had some, and we used to, with Maliolo and some of those guys up there, Hobart, we used to do like a little test that was 5 on one side, walk, 4, walk back, so it was 15 total, but similar. It's just been 10 years because I'm old, so.
And Sam, you are a CrossFit individual athlete. This is your first day on a team in the Coliseum. How does that feel for you?
Oh, I like it. It's way more fun, to be honest, yeah. I'm grateful to be part of this team.
Only 3 teams finished this event, including you guys. What was the key to the success?
We just had to trust ourselves and go for it. That's really all it was. Just pray.
Thanks. Great job, guys. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Well, they do sell shirts with that on it, so it is applicable when you come to the NOBULL CrossFit Games. Mayhem Freedom, how about that? After 2 events, they leapfrog, and this is why they win, right? Everyone gets excited, rightfully so. Oslo Navy Blue wins the first event, but after day 1, the lead is 15.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised at all. Oslo Navy Blue, they are still in with a chance, but they do need to make up some points. Mayhem Independence, sensational. I'm really happy to see CrossFit Selwyn jump into that top 10 as well.
And then 8th day.
8th day sneakily had a great first day,
which for the teams is in the books. The individuals still throwing down back here inside the Coliseum, so stick around and stick with us on games.crossfit.com for more results, standings, and information on the NOBULL CrossFit Games. For Jamie Hagia, Jeremy Austin, Tanya Wagner, my name is Joel Gadet. More to come from Madison.